your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Hi everybody, Brian Engelman here with the New American Media. This is a new segment we like to call Lunch with Larry. We're backstage over here at Politicon in Los Angeles 2015. We just watched Edward Snowden give his thoughts in an interview sent over from Russia, if we are to believe that, with the Yes Men. And we're now joined with Larry Elder. Larry, nice to meet you.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm thrilled to have you here. Let's start off with your background, being from Cleveland, 17 years. As you know, I do a sports radio show.
I'm from Cleveland. I'm from L.A. Lived in Cleveland for 17 years.
Spent 17 years.
Yeah, it sort of made me a Clevelander, but no, I'm born and raised in L.A. I went to college in the East Coast, law school in the Midwest, and then I was recruited to work for a big law firm in Cleveland. I stayed there at the law firm for a couple of years. I started a small business. Got into television and radio there, which is one of the neat things about Cleveland. There's no way I would have been able to get into TV and radio if I tried to do it in LA. And then I started a little show in Cleveland. I got recruited by the Fox affiliate in Cleveland. I have my own TV show called The Larry Elder Show, which nobody saw. Came on Sunday morning at 7:30. And then I met somebody who was in talk radio out here in LA. And to make a very long story short, I had a 2-day audition at KABC Radio here in LA. They hired me after one day and said after the first day, Larry, you're hired, go out, have a good time, relax, don't speak so quickly. And I was there for about 22 years, got fired twice, and now I'm with AM 870, The Answer, KRLA in LA.
Excellent.
I did my life in, what was it, 90 seconds. Are you impressed? Are you impressed, Brian?
That's the elevator pitch. It's LA. Everything's about the elevator pitch. Get in.
Speaking of LA, I know it's your interview. I don't want to
when you interview a guy that interviews, it becomes
I know,
I love these, actually.
But I lived in the Midwest for 25 years, and there's something about the Midwest versus LA that's very different.
Okay.
And I'll give you a microcosm. If you're at a party in Cleveland and you say to somebody, I meet you, Brian,
Yes.
and you and I can click, we bond. I said, Brian, what do you do for a living? You would say, I do X.
Yes.
Out here, if I meet you at a party, I say, Brian, what do you do for a living? The first thing you would say is, well, right now. Well, that is the way it is. Well, right now, because people in LA are always reinventing themselves, which is one of the reasons I like it out there.
People in LA are always reinventing themselves.
Doing more than one thing, have a different thing, always thinking about what's going on down the road. In the Midwest, you ask somebody what they do for a living, they will tell you.
That is a difference. No, it's a very big difference being a Midwesterner and you end up on a coast versus if you're from here. This place isn't real. It's La La Land. It's Hollywood. It's the land of dreams and
I think it's
fame.
I think Brian, it's not real for people who are not from here. My brother, for example, he just retired. He was in the oil and gas industry for 25 years. Most people living in the greater LA area have nothing to do with entertainment. It's probably about maybe 10% of the market, and that 10% counting the subsidiary people that are catering and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
By and large, most people have nothing whatever to do with the entertainment industry.
Yeah. Well, it's like in the gold rush. They didn't. Most of the people that made money, they weren't striking rich with gold. He was selling Levi Strauss and pickaxes,
Selling
and
people
food,
trying to strike rich. That's right.
Exactly.
That's
So
right.
you got to find your way. There's a book that I'm working on. It's called "There's Only Next Year." What happens to three generations of Cleveland sports fans with blah 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 blah. I talked with Hugh Hewitt, one of your colleagues, yesterday about it. What would you say the importance of sports is to someone? You've been in Cleveland for 15 years. You were. Now you're out here, obviously. But in your 17 years, seeing the passion of the sports fans, what do you think it means to a Midwesterner such as a Clevelander to cheer on their team, to become invested and become let down? And do you think there's a cumulative effect, almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, when it becomes, oh, they'll find a way to screw this up, oh, they'll fumble, just watch, they're going to turn it over. And it kind of happens and you get stuck in this.
You know, I lived there, as you know, for 17 years in Cleveland, and I saw this kind of thing where they'd get a good player, Cliff Lee,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, they would
Sabathian Lee, back to
yeah,
back,
wouldn't be able to keep them. And then there's this kind of loser kind of expectation. Remember the drive? Remember the fumble?
I've heard of those.
Remember when Michael Jordan lit up Craig Elo for 40 points? Yeah. And you got LeBron back now, and you still didn't win the championship. I don't know, this kind of a mentality that starts to affect the town. But once you break that, as they did in Boston, there's kind of a lovableness that you have to that goes away. So I think there's something to the forlorn but still loyal Cleveland fan that's almost endearing. But sooner or later,
Almost like a Cubs fan?
yeah, but sooner or later we're going to break through. Sooner or later the Browns are going to win. Sooner or later the Cavaliers are going to win. Sooner or later, and the Cleveland, the Indians did get into a World Series. I was there from 1977 until 1992. The team was awful. And they played at Municipal Stadium, had 80,000 people.
The mistake is
17 people were there. I was one of them doing the wave. I mean, it was ridiculous.
It was like the movie Major League.
It was like that.
It really was.
You know,
you buy the nosebleed seat and then you're down front
funny you
row.
mentioned that. The guy that wrote Major League is from Cleveland. And they had the premiere at the Palace Theater, downtown Cleveland, when they showed the movie. And it was like it was the World Series. People were cheering like it was. And I'm like, this is a freaking movie, guys. It's not the World Series. But that's how desperately people wanted a winner.
Oh, yeah.
Out here in LA, there's so much to do. You got the beach, you have women, and so if the team doesn't do that well, no one commits suicide. But in Cleveland, it's a very different kind of thing.
We do take it different. It's almost like
Absolutely.
I view it kind of as an attack on us in Midwestern values to just constantly be laughed at and put down. It's,
You know what?
To me, it becomes personal on a more
It's
than...
funny you should say that. I must say that I was one of those that would make Cleveland jokes before I moved there. And then I lived there for 1 year. I thought I'd be there 2 years, and then turned into 4, turned into 10, turned into 17. At that point, when I cut on television, I watched The Tonight Show and watched the Cleveland jokes. It started to piss me off because it's a town. People care. People have feelings. You know, you guys in LA, you grow up here and you do a Cleveland joke. It hurts people's feelings in the Midwest.
It's a knock. Well, it's almost like the Republican and Democratic establishment talking to someone with a libertarian slant.
Right.
Like we're the crazies in the room. Like we have the tinfoil hats on for calling out, looking through history and going,
It's almost like
we're on a bad trajectory here and you
flyover
clowns.
country, you know, like flyover country. We can just dump on people anywhere from New York to LA and everybody in the middle and just dump on them. And that's what it is, it's a smugness. And I resent it now. And I am very sensitive to it now, having lived here for a long time. You won't find me doing Cleveland jokes on my show. I don't do that.
Did you ever see the South Park episode where there was a case of smug rolling in and it was like smog and it was George Clooney's, it was from his acceptance speech going on and on. I think he just even took credit for the civil rights movement or something like that. No, but the smug factor is a real thing, and I think there is a camaraderie for people that cheer for those teams.
I'll tell you something else too, Brian. Out here in LA, people want to come here and play.
Right.
And so they'll take less money. Rick Fox, I remember he was recruited from the Celtics.
Yeah, I met him.
And he was offered a number of different opportunities. It took less money to come out here because of the opportunity to go into Hollywood. And he parlayed that into a career.
I mean, look at those teeth. They kind of have to.
Gorgeous guys. But I mean, people come out here for less money. In Cleveland, nobody comes there for less money.
You're begging it.
Yeah.
LeBron's a great recruiting chip. That
Although
definitely
he's
helps.
from Akron.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
a whole
he's got
different-
ties outside, and he's able to recruit other people. But outside of that, by and large, people don't want to go to Cleveland to play ball. They don't want to go to Detroit. to play
But
ball.
you know what? The RNC picked Cleveland. The RNC is having their convention
But they're
in
picking Cleveland because Ohio is a swing state, and no Republicans ever won
Without carrying
Ohio. So that's the real reason. So it wasn't because they wanted to go to Cleveland, but because of the other reason. But it really kind of is obnoxious. We have so many advantages out here in LA. As I mentioned, the weather
Yep.
and the economy. And Hollywood, and so people want to come out here. In the Midwest, you have to literally sometimes beg people to come out. I'm looking at Pittsburgh, this McCutcheon guy. Is he going to stay there long term, Pittsburgh? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how many people. Jim Thome left, and Manny Ramirez left, Albert Bell left. It's just CC Sabathia.
Joey Bell. Remember he changed his name?
Oh, it's almost Halloween, so we can call him Joey, and then he'll throw a baseball at us.
He changed his name from Joey.
Chase us with his SUV.
Changed his name from Joey to Albert. Yeah.
No, that was great. But let's talk about the RNC going to Cleveland. Let's talk about that race. Kasich, not really pulling very well.
What is that all about? He's a successful governor from Ohio, from a state that's important, and it's John Kasich who? What is that all about? Rick Perry, a governor from Texas,
Gone already.
very successful, gone. Scott Walker, governor of a blue state,
Gone.
Wisconsin, he was able to stand down the union, get the union to give some give back, which is what
Right.
I thought we needed. Gone. It's because people are angry. They are angry at what they call establishment Republicans because they haven't been able to stop the Obama agenda.
Right.
And many people in talk radio have convinced the Republican base that the Republican Party leadership has been too accommodating and they should have done this, that, and the other. And as a result, the base is restless and quite angry.
So it's an extension of the Tea Party frustration and outrage from 2010.
But it's outrage, Brian, as a reaction to the most left-wing president we've ever had in our lives. And when Bill Clinton was president in 1992, and he governed as a lefty the first 2 years and pushed Hillary Care, the Republican Party took over the House, and Clinton moved to the center.
Dragged him kicking and screaming.
But he moved
to the center.
He signed capital gains tax credits. He signed welfare reform. He agreed that I will move to the center. Obama stood down there, dug in, and is still pursuing the same left-wing agenda and has given absolutely nothing to the Republicans. And as a result, the Republican base is furious.
All right, Brian Engelman back with Larry Elder. The room that we were in talking.
Larry.
Lunch. I'm sorry. Thank you. Lunch with Larry.
Called Lunch with Larry.
The room filled up with about 50 more people, so we decided to go with the microphone route. Yeah, they're talking Cleveland sports and they're not punching each other. They're not crying into their coffee. But Larry, what we were talking about right there before the break was, maybe we'll just put up that. Thank you for that commercial break. We were talking about Ohio being a swing state. We were talking about that type of thing. We were talking about Kasich. Let's talk about the failed leadership of John Boehner. I mean, being from Ohio, okay, good luck. Hope it goes well. Former bartender, nice story. And it's been miserable. Talk about Boehner's exit.
I'm not one of those who considers Boehner to have been a failed leader. What it is that the Republicans, when they ran in the off years, overpromised and under-delivered.
That's the opposite of what you're supposed to do in sales.
Well, yeah, and when you are the President of the United States, you have a great deal of power. You can sign a bunch of executive orders, as Obama did. Remember when Obama first said, well, I would love to do immigration reform, but legally I can't do it. I taught con law, he said, and I'm telling you can't do it. Well, surprise, surprise, he started signing all these executive orders and found out he could do it. Once a president signs an executive order, there's very little you can do about it unless you're willing to shut down the government. When you shut down the government, Republicans get blamed. You have the left-wing media. They find somebody in West Cupcake who's lost a job. They put a microphone in his or her face. Oh, my God, the Republicans are so nasty. And the government opens up in 2 weeks, fully funds everything, and you got nowhere. So John Boehner is aware of that. His problem was he failed, Brian, to explain it to people. Right. The reason I can't shut down the government is because when we do, we get cream. We get cream, we're going to lose seats, we're going to lose power. So in the long run, it's going to hurt us. Why don't I do this? I can stop Obama's agenda. I can stop Obama from raising more taxes. I can stop Obama from passing more climate control legislation, climate change legislation, which is what they did do. They did stop Obama from doing that. Obama wanted to raise more taxes. He wanted to do more regulation. A lot of that has been stopped. And John Boehner has failed to articulate the successes because their success is basically saying no, as opposed to here's what we've done. In my opinion, John Boehner failed to communicate to the base what we've done to slow down the Obama's agenda, what we can't do to stop the agenda, and what we should do, which is to elect a friggin' Republican president. And when we do that, we can roll back some of this stuff. John Boehner failed to articulate that. Add to that talk radio. Oh, you're an establishment guy. You guys have rolled over. You guys have done this, and you've gotten to the base, worked into a frenzy, into believing there's certain things that the leadership can do when in fact they can't do it without grave damage to the Republican brand. That's what John Boehner failed to explain properly. I saw Jason Chaffetz, for example, who for a while was a candidate. I think he's taken his name off now.
I don't know if he's officially off with the whole McCarthy thing, and we'll see how it plays out.
Chaffetz is one of these insurgent guys from Utah, very bright guy. And I saw him interviewed on one of the Sunday chat shows, and he was asked several times, would you shut down the government, and refused to answer. Now, if it's as simple as shutting down the government, why didn't you just say yes? And the answer is because he's aware of the political fallout if he were to say that, despite the fact that he's one of those guys who is perceived to be an insurgent who would stand up to the Obama agenda. The question is, how do you do it? Tell me specifically what you would do. I want to know.
Well, I think a lot of the outrage, part of it might be the articulation of what they did accomplish. I think there's another segment of it that gets into, it's Obamacare, stupid. You know, they're sitting there. It's the biggest piece of garbage legislation we've had in a very long time. It's impacted us. A success is that is now done. And I think that's Boehner's big deal is, hey, let's get a bunch of people in 2010. Let's get people in 2012. You know, great, 2014. And here we are, and Obamacare is just even more locked in than it ever has been.
As you said, Brian, it's a matter of over-promising and under-delivering. When the Republicans in 2010, 2012, 2014 said, vote for me, I will stop Obamacare, and you haven't done it, people are pissed off about that. The fact is that there aren't enough votes to stop Obamacare. Even when and if we have a Republican president, without having enough votes to stop a filibuster, it'll be hard to undo Obamacare. And certainly when you don't have a Republican president, you can't undo Obamacare. So a lot of promises were made that Republicans could not deliver on, and they're getting hurt because of it.
So now we have someone jumping in the room, taking all the air out of the room, as a lot of people are saying, Donald Trump. And you know, it is kind of you can't really call it the voice of rage, but
I think you can.
in some respects you can. So what are your thoughts on Trump and what it all means?
Well, Donald Trump, if he were a movie, he'd be the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is he's gotten us talking about immigration in ways that nobody else ever would have talked about immigration, and he's shown some cashews. He's not embarrassed by his wealth.
I'm sorry, some cashews? I've never used that phrase before. I'm gonna have to start trying that.
If you use it, I get 10%.
Patent pending. Copyright.
The bad is he said things like, well, I will support women. He attacked.
I love women.
He attacked Jeb Bush for saying he wanted to defund women's programs when that's not exactly what he said. Well, none of these programs should be funded. Planned Parenthood should be defunded not because of abortion, should be defunded because we shouldn't be spending one dime on anything other than Article 1 and Section 8 of the Constitution. Whether it's Planned Parenthood, whether it's United Way, whether it's Red Cross, none of it should be funded by government. That should be done by individuals or at the state level. The ugly is when he says things like, I think the Iraq War was the worst thing ever. I want to get you back to the dark old days of 9/11. We got whacked. 90% of the American people thought we were going to get hit again within 6 months to a year. This man, Saddam Hussein, was shooting at the British and American planes patrolling the southern and no-fly zones. He was stealing from the so-called Oil for Food program. We know he had chemical weapons because he used them on his own people. He used them on the Iranians. He had tried to assassinate George Herbert Walker Bush. He was sending $25,000 to homicide bombers. And all 16 of our intelligence agencies, all of them, said at the highest level of probability the man had chemical and biological weapons. Now, on the one hand, people are criticizing George W. Bush for being stupid. On the other hand, you want this stupid guy to go to all 16 agencies? I don't know. I just don't think so. Come on. And we had that thing done. We had it in hand when Obama in December of 2011 said that Iraq was sovereign, safe, and self-reliant, pulled everybody out, and then it went supernova. So if you want to criticize somebody, criticize Obama for, if you didn't even like the war, for overruling his advisors. He overruled Hillary. He overruled Robert Gates, the Secretary of Defense. He overruled Leon Panetta, his CIA guy, all of whom said, leave a stay-behind force. He didn't do it anyway, and that helped us not be able to fight ISIS. And it's caused Iraq now to go back to where it was before. So I'm sorry, I blame Obama for that. I don't blame George W. Bush for that. And Donald Trump brags about the fact that in 2013 and 2014, he said, I predicted that Iraq was a bad idea. We shouldn't have done it. That's not the way to go. The Republican brand has been damaged in large part because of the Iraq War, because of the failure of Republicans to explain why we were there, and the fact that this place was in hand before Obama undid it.
And so here we are. Russia's jumping into all this, and there's a lot of claims from Russian military. We're bombing desert. We're arming ISIS. They're saying we created ISIS and that we're doing it to destabilize the region, like Wesley Clark with, we're going to invade 7 countries in 5 years. Why? Because they don't know what else to do. There's a lot of that going on where a lot of people aren't even trusting whatever the official opinion is. What do you say about the Russian involvement and what's really going on here? If you had to just trust your gut on this, what do you think is really happening?
What's going on here is that Putin wants to keep Assad in because they have a base there, the Russians do, and they want to keep that base. And what they're doing is they're bombing the people that we trained. And I don't know what to do right now. Some people are saying declare a no-fly zone. The Russians are flying. If you declare a no-fly zone, essentially you're declaring war against Russia. Are you willing to back that up? And Obama has done these red lines. He hasn't backed that up. So right now...
I mean, Putin knows that he's weak. Hey, what did he say in that when he thought the mic was off? After my last election, we're going to have a little bit more flexibility here. Okay, is this the flexibility they were talking about? You think this is part of a plan? They're just like Governor Ventura. He said, we'd be on stage and we'd be talking, and I'm the good guy, he's the bad guy, or vice versa. We fight, everybody cheers, and then we go backstage and have a filet mignon and have a cocktail. Do you think that Putin, that this is some sort of plan based on that, or I mean?
The plan for Putin to expand his power as to where he goes, I'm not even sure Putin knows. I know this. Donald Trump says, well, Assad's a bad guy, ISIS are bad, let the two of them fight. That would be one thing if they weren't going to take the fight here. These people want to set up a worldwide caliphate, and they want to hit us again. Afghanistan had this area where where Al Qaeda was able to plan their attack. Now ISIS has a much larger area where they can plan, train, and recruit. And if they weren't coming here, that'd be one thing. But they're coming here. So unless we're willing to get our hands dirty and try to affect the outcome, we're in trouble.
All right, we're going to go Twitter rapid fire style with a couple quick ones on the way out the door because we're going to end this. 140 characters or less.
Okay.
Who's going to be the nominee from the Democrats?
Last person standing. If I were a betting person, I would say Marco Rubio. If I were betting. I didn't say I wanted him, but if I were betting.
Oh, wait. With the Republicans. Okay, what about the Democrats?
Hillary.
Who should we root for if we don't want the Democrats to win as a candidate? Because Hillary might be more flawed than Bernie.
Who should we root for if we don't want?
If we want them to lose, who's the most vulnerable?
Oh, I see. Oh, Bernie's the most vulnerable, I think.
Even with all Hillary's baggage. Because I waffle on this a little bit.
He's still a socialist. I mean, and that still is a four-letter word, even among a lot of other people. So somebody who basically believes that there's a free lunch and that Republicans are stopping them from eating it, which is what Bernie Sanders believes, I think is a more vulnerable candidate than is Hillary.
Okay. Larry, thank you for your time. Tell us one more time where they can follow you online and all the stuff that you're up to.
I have a blog called elderstatement.com. My website is larryelder.com. I'm on Twitter at Larry Elder, and like me on Facebook.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Lunch with Larry.
Lunch with Larry.